The date is January 24th, 2024. The time is approximately 6:08, and I would like to call the Frederick County School Board meeting to order. We have an agenda before us. Do I have a motion for approval?
I make a motion for approval.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Madam Vice Chair?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that the County School Board of Frederick County, Virginia enter a closed session meeting for the following: to review and discuss appointments, information only, dismissals, resignations, substitutes/tutors, and volunteers pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711, Alpha.1, and to review and discuss individual student matters that would involve specific students and particular information contained in their scholastic records, including requests for release from compulsory attendance for religious reasons pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A.2. To discuss or consider the acquisition of real property for a public purpose, such as property being located in the Opequon Magisterial District outside the limits of the City of Winchester, where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711, A as in alpha, paragraph 3.
Second.
All right. Okay, we have a motion to go into closed section. Do we have a second?
Second.
The motion has been made and properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We are now in closed session, and we will reconvene around 7 p.m.
Mr. Chair, I move that we return from closed session.
Second.
We have a motion to return from closed session, and it has been properly seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
I move that to the best of each board member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements under the Virginia Freedom of Information Act were discussed in the closed session, and only such public business matters were identified in the motion by which the closed session was convened were heard, discussed, or considered by the school board.
We have a motion to certify the closed session. Do we have a second?
Second.
And roll call?
It's been properly seconded. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Mr. Funes,
Aye.
Mr. Atkins,
Aye.
Mr. Bell,
Aye.
Ms. Martin. Aye. Ms. Klein,
Aye.
Mr. Sturdivant.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, we have no motions coming out of closed session.
Mr. Chair?
Sir.
We actually have two, and they're down at the bottom.
Ah, thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
And Mr. Chair, we do have motions coming out of closed session.
You need to state each one.
The motions coming out of closed session are as follows. I move to approve the personnel actions as recommended by the superintendent, and I move to approve the release of student A from compulsory attendance for religious reasons.
Point of order. Can we divide those up? There's two motions.
Two separate? Okay. So first motion, I move to approve the personnel actions as recommended by the superintendent.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the personnel actions as recommended by the superintendent that has been properly seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
And Mr. Chairman, I move to approve this release of student A from compulsory attendance for religious reasons.
Second.
We have a motion to approve the release of student A from compulsory attendance for religious reasons. That has been properly seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, it is 7:04. Oh, we need a motion to reconvene? Okay. The motion, all right. The next, where are we at then? We have to open this back up, correct?
No, we're already open. You can go to a minute of silence now.
Okay, I'm sorry, apologize, folks, still learning. All right, let's bow our heads for a second and just have a minute of silence, please. All right, thank you. Now, please, if you would, stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented or with specific items removed for discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve this consent agenda as presented.
I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Do I have a second?
Second.
The motion has been made and properly seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Mr. Chair, I would like to take a few moments to read the two proclamations
Madam Vice Chair,
and the resolution, if I may.
please do.
So we have two proclamations and one resolution that I would like to share this evening with you all. First proclamation is School Principals Appreciation Week for January 14th through the 20th. Whereas, school principals work cooperatively to direct, develop, and inspire all members of the school staff and student body, and to communicate effectively with parents to engage them in the learning process. And whereas, principals serve as educational leaders, managing the policies, regulations, and procedures necessary to ensure a safe and effective learning environment for all students in Virginia's public and private schools. And whereas, principals and teachers are entrusted with the opportunity and responsibility of guiding, directing, nurturing, mentoring, and imparting knowledge to our children while they are at school. And whereas, principals work collaboratively with teachers, staff, students, parents, and the community at large to proactively prepare students to be self-reliant and productive citizens. And whereas, Virginia School Principals Appreciation Week is an opportunity to recognize the hard work of Virginia school principals and to recognize the importance of school leaders in ensuring that every child has access to a quality education. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Frederick County School Board hereby declares the week of January 14th through 20th, 2024, as Virginia School Principals Appreciation, dated this 24th day of January 2024. Do we have any principals in the audience this evening? And if so, please stand. Thank you. I have a second proclamation. It's National School Counseling Week for February 5th through the 9th of 2024. Whereas school counselors work together with students, families, and school staff to help students reach their full potential. And whereas school counselors are committed to helping students explore their abilities, strengths, interests, and talents as these traits relate to career awareness and development. And whereas school counselors help parents focus on ways to further the educational, personal, and social growth of their children. And whereas school counselors seek to identify and utilize community resources that can enhance and complement comprehensive school counseling programs and help students become successful, engaged citizens. And whereas comprehensive developmental school counseling programs are considered an integral part of the educational process that enables all students to achieve success in school. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Frederick County School Board hereby declares the week of February 5th through 9th, 2024, as National School Counseling Week, dated this 24th day of January 2024. And I have seen a few counselors in the audience this evening. Can you please stand and be recognized? Thank you. Just one more. This is a resolution. Whereas the Frederick County School Board wishes to recognize and express its appreciation for the dedicated service of the outgoing school board members. Whereas these 4 members have served the County School Board of Frederick County, Virginia, while demonstrating unwavering commitment and dedication to the betterment of our school division. Whereas their tireless efforts have contributed to the growth and success of our educational institutions. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the County School Board of Frederick County, Virginia expresses its deepest gratitude to the outgoing members for their hard work, dedication, and service to the county and the school division. Be it further resolved that the Frederick County School Board wishes the outgoing school board members continued success in all their future endeavors. Be it further resolved that the Frederick County School Board and the Superintendent of Schools join the community in expressing their sincere gratitude to the outgoing board members for their willingness to serve on the school board, for their dedication to the betterment of our school division, and for the other special gifts each brought to the board with their service, dated this 24th day of January, 2024. And Dr. Hummer, I'd like to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I would like to call up Mr. Lake, Mr. Monk, and Mr. Comstock. We have a small little gift for you. Picture here of this building back in the day, so hang that on your mantle. And I went there. But thank you for your service there. I was going to say. Before our time.
We are now at the point of our meeting where we will celebrate our staff and student awards and recognitions. Dr. Hummer, please.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. So first up today, we have some folks from Bright Futures that are going to provide you all with some information. We always like to do this right after the holiday season. If you're not familiar with Bright Futures, you are going to hear all about them this evening. So Ms. Steindauer, if you can come on up, please. And we have a little presentation for you all. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Right. Do a little test. All right. We got it. Okay, cool. Hello, everyone. My name is Elise Stein-Dolliner. It is so fabulous to be here and to see so many familiar friends here in the audience and so many partners we have through Frederick County, especially our counselors. So I really do appreciate seeing them here, too. We work very closely with them. But to give you a broad brushstroke in the very condensed version of Bright Futures, because I could talk to you all night and share stories all evening about the things we do as a community here to try to help our students, I like to say that I am the coordinator of Bright Futures, a chaos coordinator, as the mug that one of our partners gave me this year during holiday assistance. But I am a part of student support, and we run the student support emergency warehouse. So when things are looking really tough for a student and they need a physical item, we are the ones that keep that. We find the things, source the items, and get them out to the kids when they need them most. Our goal is to uncover the barriers to the kids' success. So what is keeping them from being successful in school? What is that item? Is it a physical item? Is it something we could solve? So when we're looking at what a barrier to success could be, I could give you a couple examples from the last week. One of them would be a student waiting at the school bus. He does not have a coat on. He does not have shoes on at this point. Basically, toes are poking out. There's no socks. It's basically like you're wearing flip-flops at this point. How is that kid supposed to participate in gym? That is a physical item. Providing shoes, coat, all of a sudden, this kid is now able to participate in gym. You're able to see a grade point average increase, participation, attendance, all these things tied together by a pair of shoes. Another one would be one of the 1,500 kids that are in our food pack program, which is a backpack program for some of you who may not know about it, with the food that goes in their backpack over the weekend. For those kids who may not be a part of this program yet, some of them will eat their last meal for free, usually, on Friday, and then they will not eat again until Monday morning. So I can't imagine doing that myself. I am very food motivated. But I also can't imagine doing that all weekend and then coming in on Monday and trying to absorb Shakespeare or maybe algebra. On my best days, I might have trouble with that. But I can't imagine not eating for 2 days and then being expected to do that and not have some sort of behavioral issue on top of that. You can see that sometimes it just takes a few physical items to change the trajectory of a student's life and their experience in school. Another saying I like to tell people about is before a teacher can try and teach and reach a student, these basic needs have to be met. I cannot imagine learning, absorbing, trying to even set a goal and achieve that goal when I have had no food in my stomach for 2 days. And these are all things that as a community we're able to come together to solve. But how did we solve this problem 10 years ago? Would we have had a solution? We're talking staff members taking on the championship of a student, feeding the kids out of their own pocket, which still happens. We see it throughout the entire school system, people that are still taking care of and doing the best they can to save a child. But this is not sustainable. This is why we need a solution that's broader, that can help more kids and duplicate fewer services. We try to find a solution to these problems within 24 hours, to reach out to these families via the counselors, reach out to these students, find what that problem is, what they're lacking, what they need, and get that to them as fast as possible so that we can get back out of crisis mode and into learning and being in school and being present. It takes a lot of volunteers, time, treasure, and talent to get there, but we see the results, and we see that in our students' faces, and we see that in the relief of our staff's faces, that this is not one more kid they're sending home hungry. And I can see faces here in the audience here today that have been with us in the last week calling me and telling me about kids who are eating out of the trash because there is no food at home. And these are things that we can change and that we can give a relief to the staff members who are seeing this and to the students who are in crisis, who are in survival mode. One program I want to spotlight today is our Holiday Assistance Program. So we've got a little chart here to tell you over time how this program has grown in the about 10 years now since our launch. But for the last year, we did have 1,500 kids on so far this year, we've had 1,500 kids in our food pack program. Of those kiddos, we have had 1,250 who are in our Holiday Assistance Program. Now you have to think, so if you have 1,500 kids that may not have food over the weekend, how many of them are opening something in December? If they're not being fed, what are the chances that they're getting anything? And this is just something that breaks my heart. It's a very basic thing that offers a lot of pride and camaraderie with students and can really separate students from each other. Last year, we were able to help make an impact and make some changes for these 1,250 students, which is a very large jump over the last year, the 995. Believe me, we were busy, but also it is a very, very rewarding program. So that is 1,250 students from 445 families from 260 sponsors, which is amazing, which is huge. It's a huge amount of community generosity that comes together to make this possible so that these children have some new clothing, a new toy, a new treat of some kind, some books, something that they can look forward to, they can be proud of, and that when they come back in January, they can be just like everyone else. They can have an experience just like everyone else and have the pride to, have that new shirt on, to not be, the one kid who didn't get anything. So I want to tell you a couple quick little snippets. But I'm going to, wait 1 second, I'm going to show you the next one. I want to show you some faces. We also have our Shop with a Cop program. Now, we select some kiddos out of that holiday assistance pool, and those kids who are in that program, they are recommended by their counselors who are in the trenches. They are in there, they see the kids every day, they know which ones are going to very likely have nothing to come back with in January. And they see these kiddos, and they know which ones could really benefit from a positive experience with law enforcement. And because of the incredible generosity of the Law Enforcement Foundation, Walmart, Frederick County Sheriff's Office, Winchester City Sheriff's Office, and so many others, we're able to put together this amazing program that brings our students, pairs them with a law enforcement personnel, and they are able to go on this basically a shopping spree. And it is the most incredibly heartwarming thing ever, and I would invite you all from the school board to please feel free to join us. It will make your day. But when I look at these kiddos' faces, I want to tell you a few little snippets about some of these things that they said on that day, so you know what is really happening here in their lives. But one of those kiddos, I remember she said, "I don't know how to shop for myself. Is there anything you need, officer? Can I buy your dog some treats?" She had never been shopping for herself, to buy anything for herself. She said, another little boy who's up there, I remember him saying, "I have no toys at home. I've never owned any toys. I would love to be able to bring some toys home, especially a Ninja Turtle." It was incredibly heartwarming to see the conveyor belt loaded up with Ninja Turtles at the end of this, and nothing else. But that was wonderful. I'm like, this is what being a kid is like. There was another kiddo that I remember hearing him say, he said, "I am not allowed to buy anything but clothes today. That's all I'm allowed to buy." And it's been drilled into him from a parent. I'm only allowed to bring clothes. And getting him to understand that we have the clothes covered. This is for you. For the first time this year, we took care of everything else. They didn't have to worry about, taking care of their own socks and underwear. That's all back at the warehouse, bud. We got you. It's wrapped. You'll have something. But you get yourself a Ninja Turtles. You get yourself anything else you want. It was incredible. There was one other kiddo that, when you think of, I have a 5-year-old, when you think of what was on her Christmas list, this was not even close. It was actually the sheriff of Winchester City, and he was walking with this kiddo. And he said, he's trying to pull out of him anything he could get out of him. What do you want for Christmas? What do you want for? And this kiddo says, "All I want is a warm blanket." And that's all he said. And it was heartbreaking because I'm like, my 5-year-old, that is not even close to anything she wants. She's got higher goals than that. But it's humbling to know that some of these kiddos, that this is all they want for Christmas is a warm blanket, and stop. They had not even considered anything else. So when you think about that and you frame what these children are going through, how many of them are actually being able to be children? And offering an opportunity to out of survival mode and into thriving and thinking about being successful in school, successful as a child, even just having experiences children should have. It is just so key to be able to offer these sort of experiences to let these kids grow. So, okay. For some of them, this really does offer an experience at a normal life, but for others, it's just as simple as not having access to food. Food and basic needs are not met year-round. It doesn't end in December. So I want to tell you a smidgen a little bit about our summer feeding program. So when the school lunch ends, which so many of these kiddos and so many of these students who are reliant on our food pack, when that ends at the end of the school year, what happens? Well, we are very aware that hunger still exists, and it's oftentimes it's students who are stuck up in very remote regions, which is why we have our summer food program, our summer food distribution, where we drive around in a bus, 15 to 20 or so sites at least a week, and those are all pinpointed and selected by the highest needs, by the highest level of requests for food, the highest desert area. So we track where there's no walkability to a grocery store, a general store, anything, a Dollar Tree, you name it. They can't get it. They're stuck. There's kids who have no access to travel, people who are homebound. So we look for that information. We work with our counselors, and we work with anyone in the school system to help find those sites. We pinpoint those sites, and we plan our entire summer around being out there and getting the food to the kids. We get our food from all for free, which is the best part. And usually it's going to be about 2,000, I would say again, food boxes that are available to any student who is hungry. When kids walk up to us at the bus and they are hungry, no shoes on their feet, you get a box, you get a box, you get a box. Everybody gets a box. And we just try to do everything we can to further support these kiddos. We also have been inviting out the food bank with us, which has been incredible. We're able to give out more fresh produce than ever, fresh herbs, We've also given out fresh plants, thanks to the Master Gardeners here. I see a few folks here from Master Gardeners, woot woot. We love giving out all the fresh produce, because by later in the summer, we have reports of people saying their gardens are overflowing. They have more tomatoes than they know what to do with. I mean, they've got jalapenos, they've got herbs, they're spicing up all these other things that we're able to work with them. And it's becoming, it's an incredibly, incredibly powerful thing to be able to, teach the people to fish, if you're familiar with that saying. But it is one of my favorite things to do, because you're literally out there with the families and feeding people, finding more solutions, and anyone can sign up for that program online or out on the spot, right out there at the bus on a clipboard. And we can do data entry later, not important. But feeding the kids is what it's all about. So the flyer you see up here, the Supporting Bright Futures flyer, is something everyone can keep in mind. If you would like $1, round up that dollar at the Martin's Register, I would encourage you, because it means so much to us, and it's good through March. So if anyone is interested in potentially supporting Bright Futures, every dollar makes such an impact for us, when you consider that if I do need to buy food, and all of our food I buy through donations, for 15 cents, I can buy a box of mac and cheese. So please consider that roundup of 15 cents, if nothing else. I know I go there far too often. I go through way too much milk, but I've been rounding up, and I know that I expect a gigantic check this week, at the end of this, not this week, this period, and hopefully more support than ever, so we can keep on doing more, growing more, supporting more kids in any way we can. So at this point, I would love to see if you have any questions, comments, checks, anything else you would like to do to support Bright Futures. I'm all ears, but that's all I got, folks. But thank you very much for your support, because, it's because of our leadership that we have such an amazing program. We have some very complicated problems, but we also have really creative solutions. And what we have here is super unique, and a super small shop solution. So I applaud you all for your support, and thank you so much to everyone who is a part of this, because it takes an absolute village, from counselors, teachers, administrators, to us running around like crazy chickens, to all the different sites to make it happen. So I do thank you, and if you do have questions, I'm all ears. I'd love to work with you. Yeah, what you got?
On the Shop with the Cop,
Yeah.
how much per child are they given?
Well, that totally depends. So I get granted all the money. I don't like to spend money on anything. So all my money is grant money, and it's how big the grant is. So this last year I had it was about $200 per child, which is pretty fair. And then I also, through additional grant money from the the Frederick County Law Enforcement, Winchester City Law Enforcement Foundation, we also were able to buy them all new shoes at basically cost from Wilkins. So thank you to Wilkins. And all the clothing was sponsored by sponsors. So everything else. So they were getting quite a bit of nice stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah. What else you got?
Mr. Chair. So while we've got the public forum and everything, if community members wanted to get involved with this, and other organizations out there, how do they get in contact with you? What can they do? Who do they reach out to?
Small shop, you call me.
All right.
If you go on the Frederick County's website, you can see Bright Futures as one of the options on like the community tab. You'll see Bright Futures, and you'll see my email. And so you shoot me an email, and I can tell you a little bit about what we do. But there's so many opportunities for involvement. Volunteers are key to us. We pack 1,500 food bags a week for students in the community, and so that is all volunteer powered. I cannot do that by myself. So today we have had 2 groups in there. We have 1 group packing right now. Call me. We'll find a solution. We'll find something that works for you, because we constantly need people, especially people who want to do laundry, because goodness, we get a lot of clothing donations too, and clothing goes out so quickly, and it's a huge need. So there's something for everybody.
Mr. Chairman?
Hi. I was just wondering if you work with any of the high schools and their volunteer organizations or clubs.
Definitely.
Okay.
So we rely so heavily, and I love working with students. We have a whole service learning model where we love to have students learning about the needs in their community and then learn how they can give back. So we have several of the high schools, different clubs, from Interact clubs to DECA to organization, the special education groups that come out and help us and volunteer and work with us. They're my favorite volunteers. It's all student. I love student powered, because they're learning at the same time and they're helping us. I cannot package 1,500 things, unpackage and repackage 1,500 things of applesauce a week, but Linda over at Sharando and James Wood, she does it for us every single week. So with the special ed group, so we love it. We love students. And if students want to get involved, we have tons more projects all the time.
Would this be open until middle school students as well?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
So when you scale it from high school to middle school, they of course are going to have to be supervised, and we probably would just need more hands. But we are absolutely, because we're on the part of the Frederick County School building, so just come out on a bus. We got something for you. Love it.
Mr. Chairman? Have you reached out to veterans groups?
My goodness, I don't know. They can reach out to me. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Well-
All right, well, but.
Yeah, I would love that, because especially for our summer food, when we do these outreach things, we welcome the community organizations and other nonprofits who want to serve and help people to come out with us and connect people. So like, for instance, the food bank's out there with us helping people sign up for food stamps who may not be aware of their eligibility and things like that. So we would always welcome other organizations. We have lots of other nonprofits that come out and join us. And now, if they're interested, we'd be happy to entertain that. I love that.
Okay.
More the merrier.
Further questions?
I'd just like to say I totally enjoyed your presentation.
Well,
It
thank
was
you.
Quite enjoyable, and I love your exuberance for the whole thing.
You should see me in the morning when I'm fully caffeinated. But
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I mean, I could bend your ear all day, and I would love to give any of you a tour. Feel free to give me a call. I'd love to walk you through, and you can see what a warehouse full of clothing, shoes, 10,000 food items a week that we have to find, source, and repackage. I mean, it's pretty crazy. But love to have you out there, and you can see it in action. Cool.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you again very much. All right, we're going to continue with our recognitions and awards, one of the best parts of our school board meetings, I would say. So good evening and welcome to our Awards of Excellence program. Before we proceed, I would like to ask that everyone stay here through the entire program out of respect for each individual who is being recognized. Once we have completed all of the presentations, you will have an opportunity to leave and enjoy the rest of your evening. In addition, when you come forward for your certificate or to be acknowledged as a school, please take a moment to pause with Mr. Sturtevant, our chair, and myself for a photograph. Then move to your right, remain at the front, and we'll take a photo of the entire group if there is a group photo that is necessary. So I'm now going to ask the chair, Mr. Sturtevant, and I to come down, and we'll get started with listing off the names. Thank you.
In October, Elise Stein-Dolliner, Mary Moore, and Tyler Thompson received the Tigger Award. The Tigger Award is presented at the annual Community Commitment for Change Conference and embodies someone who never gives up, never says no, and keeps going until they find an answer. Tigger is the perfect example of how the community should view the children of our community and their families. Congratulations tonight to, and this will not be a surprise, Elise Stein-Dolliner. Mary Moore. And Tyler Thompson. The Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada, GFOA, presented a Distinguished Budget Presentation Award to Frederick County Public Schools, Virginia, for its annual budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2023. In order to receive this award, a governmental unit must publish a budget document that meets program criteria as a policy document, as a financial plan, and as an operations guide, and as a communications device. The GFOA award is the highest form of recognition in a governmental budgeting. This is the first year the division has submitted their budget document to GFOA and received this high honor. The division has also received the Association of School Business Officials International ASBO Meritorious Budget Award for the past 11 years. This is the highest honor in school finance and recognizes Frederick County Public Schools for its excellence in school budget presentation and setting a high standard for transparent budget development. Congratulations tonight to, and I'm going to call up several names in our finance department. We'll start off with Patty Camry. Kristen Anderson. Tiffany Chapman. Sheila Heichman. Jennifer Lanham. Candy Mitchell. Lisa Reed. Christy Siebert. And Anna Stevens. Congratulations. Very impressive. The Apple Award is given to a teacher who achieves something which significantly contributes to their school community, uses creative or innovative instructional techniques, and/or goes above and beyond for the student. We have two recipients for the Apple Award this evening. First off, Jennifer Sheets was nominated by a parent. They shared that Robert E. Ayler Middle School CTE teacher, Ms. Sheets, is teaching students how to prepare for life in the real world through CTE and FBLA opportunities. She's intentional in the activities that students are learning, having them create business plans, learning balance sheets, and understanding how organizations work. The student outcomes she creates are helping our students learn skills to be successful in the workplace when they are ready for jobs. The parent says, "My child has learned how to read a basic balance sheet and create a marketing plan through a product she designed thanks to a project-based learning activity in Ms. Sheets' class. These are life skills and real-world skills that matter, and Ms. Sheets is leading the charge in her class in our county. Congratulations, Ms. Jennifer Sheets. Heather Walther of Middletown Elementary School was nominated by a parent. They shared that Miss Walther was amazing. The parent says, "She was the perfect fit for my son with ADHD. She took the time to learn about him and what worked best for him. She worked with him on ways to make better choices. She was very patient, calm, and compassionate. Last year was the best year he had academically so far." He still talks about Miss Walther and how he wishes she could be his teacher again. I know he really enjoyed her, and she made a big difference in his life. Congratulations, Ms. Heather Walther. The Inspiration Award is given to a staff member who did something inspirational for the students, staff, parents, or community as a whole. Tonight we have one Inspiration Award recipient with us. Victoria Dander is a school counselor from Middletown Elementary School. Ms. Dander was nominated by a parent. They shared that she has been an amazing school counselor. The parent said, "When my son was in kindergarten and just diagnosed with ADHD, he was having a lot of behavior problems that were new. I didn't know what else to try with him, so I reached out to Ms. Dander for some help. She worked with him for several sessions and really helped improve his behavior. She did activities with him that helped him learn about his feelings and how to treat others. I also had to reach out to her last year when a family member passed away, and my son was having a really hard time and wouldn't open up very much. She didn't hesitate at all to work with him at school and then provide outside resources for us. He loved getting to see Ms. Dander and spending time with her. She has been so helpful. Congratulations, Ms. Victoria Dander."
Congratulations to all those who received awards. Thank you all for being patient, and if any of you would like to depart now, we appreciate your patience and thank you for coming, and we'll just give you a couple moments if anyone wants to depart before we continue. Okay. We're at the point of our agenda for citizens' comments. The Frederick County School Board is pleased to receive public comments at each monthly meeting. In order to allow the board sufficient time for its other business, The total time allotted for public comment will generally be limited to 20 minutes. Individuals speaking to the board will be allotted 3 minutes, and those individuals representing groups or organizations will be allotted 5 minutes, with 1 representative per group. Upon recognition by the chair, the speaker should clearly state their name, residing district, and the subject of their comments. All comments are to be addressed to the chair. The board will receive comments but will not respond to questions or engage in a dialogue. This is an opportunity to be heard. The board will refer any issues or concerns to staff or appropriate committees. The board is committed to showing appropriate respect and courtesy to all citizens, and speakers are expected to show that same respect and courtesy to the board. Members of the audience are not permitted to interrupt the speaker or meeting by asking questions or making comments. School board meetings are tape recorded for the purpose of clarification and development of official minutes. And tonight we have 1 speaker, and that would be Wendy Schrout. Please step forward.
Hello. Wendy Schrout, Back Creek District. Welcome to the new board members. So there was a trendy campaign slogan last fall, education, not indoctrination. So how about we break that down a little? The definition of indoctrination is to teach a narrow or one-sided view of something and ignore or exclude information that doesn't agree with that view. It is the imposition of a particular set of beliefs rather than encouragement to question and think independently. Banning books and the teaching of selective history are clear tenets of indoctrination. And on the other hand, public education should be representative of all of that public, a place where every student has the freedom to learn in a welcoming and equitable environment. Those best able to navigate this complicated world are those introduced to a wide variety of subjects, concepts, and viewpoints. This results in the skills most valued by employers and society as a whole: critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and the ability to appreciate ideas from multiple perspectives. Public schools are the very foundation of self-governance, a system that prepares students for the responsibilities of a life in a healthy democracy. It is the strongest commitment to the promise of an equal society and a level playing field. So we look forward to your support for well-rounded and objective policies that help all students prepare for a successful future. Education, not indoctrination, indeed. Thank you.
Do we have anyone else who didn't sign up that would like to speak? If none, I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir. Again, state your name and magisterial district, please.
Hello, I'm Victor Canfield. I'm from the Stonewall District. Along with the lines of what she just mentioned, nothing for anything except to say this, that as far as sex education goes, it should be basic as to the biology of it, and that's it in school. It should not be taught as to what is right or wrong in school about sex education, nor should it be pushed in any way. That belongs with the parents in their house and how they see fit for each child that they have, and that they know better than any of us to teach them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Canfield. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, my name is Tamara Canfield from the Stonewall District, and I am okay to change topics, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I just really want to express concern. There's a lot of science out there and about the effects of Wi-Fi on our children, our growing children's brains, how it affects the water in their brains, how it affects actually even going beyond just the school environment, but it is affecting, the activity of the sperm. It starts killing that off so that when they end up impregnating somebody, it's actually affecting the biology of the child, changing our brains, our our brain's formation, which can, and this is something that has to have more research, but could very possibly be the cause of so much autism, which they say is going to be 1 in 2 children by 2050. So if it's not just vaccines, maybe it is our electromagnetic atmosphere that is killing our children's brains, killing our energy levels, affecting our teachers. So I would like Frederick County Schools to do some real serious looking into the whole EMF thing and how it's affecting our children, when even our enemy Russia bans Wi-Fi and cell phones in the classrooms and in the schools. Maybe we should start looking at being more serious about our developing children's brains for their future good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is anyone else requesting to speak?
Jonathan Woolhate, not sure what district. As someone with autism, I want more of us.
Okay, thank you so much. Anyone else? All right then. That will conclude our citizen comments. Next up is reports by the superintendent, Dr. Hummer.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Before I come down and present the budget to you, I do have a couple items I do want to share. First is congratulations to all of our staff who received recognitions today and this evening. There are a lot of wonderful things happening every day here in Frederick County, and I'm so proud of all of our recipients. I also want to thank Elise for all of her hard work for supporting all of our students and families, as you heard, that are in need. And I like when she said it goes beyond December. This is a 12-month out of the year obligation, and we're very proud of that program and how we support all of our families and students in Frederick County and in Winchester as well. They have a contribution to that program. Thank you to you, school board, for recognizing our principals. We have a great group of principals here in Frederick County, and they directly impact the performance of all of our students. This is the least we could do to recognize their tireless efforts, and we greatly appreciate their leadership and dedication to our community. Because honestly, without them, we wouldn't have any accomplishments to celebrate. So thank you. I also want to thank you for recognizing our school counselors. They do so much every day for our student body, also our community, and in some instances, our staff, based on their expertise, as well as what they do on a day-to-day. We're very grateful for our counselors and all they do. I also want to thank again our 4 board members who recently came off the board and their dedication to our school division and community, which I know a lot of you are finding out very quickly the amount of work that this does take. This will hopefully be a new tradition that we will do moving forward, honoring and recognizing the commitment and hard work to be a school board member. So thank you all very much for doing that. Lastly, as you know, we had a crazy winter last week, and I want to thank our transportation department, our facilities, our custodians, our bus drivers, and all our other staff that were working into early hours in the morning as well as early and late into the evening. We would not have been able to open schools this past Monday without that. We had staff in here on the weekends. We were working on Sunday, and I just want to thank all of them for their hard work, because it is very, very comforting to know that they take their responsibility so seriously, because they could tell us no. They don't have to come in over the weekend. So we appreciate them doing that, and I just want to give a big thank you for them for keeping our staff and our students safe. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'm now going to step down to the podium and provide you my needs-based budget, which I know everyone's been waiting for. So I'm going to head on down. Give me a second while this raises for me. little slow. All right, there we go. Well, good evening, Mr. Chair, School Board, community. I'm very excited to present to you the FY25 proposed budget, but I do want to pause for a second. I don't know for those that don't realize this, but it's officially been a year for me. And just a year ago, if you remember, first week on the job, I presented FY24's budget to you, and now we're here in FY25. So time does fly by fast, and I am very excited to present the needs-based budget to you. I am going to get through this presentation in full. If there is any overarching general questions, I encourage you to answer those, or ask those, and I will answer them accordingly. And then I'll also share with you the additional opportunities that we are going to have. We're going to be spending many meetings together to talk through this budget before it goes across the street for approval. So with that being said, this budget process is very thorough. It is, yes, a superintendent's needs-based budget, but it is not just the needs that I think we need. It is based on the needs with conversations with our principals, with our staff, with our central office, and with some of you in regards to the direction we need to go in to make a promise for progress and to continue to do what's best for all of our students in meeting the needs of all 14,000 plus students that are here in Frederick County. As I mentioned, there is going to be additional meetings that we're going to have, but this budget process starts over the summer. This has been a 9-month process. So once the budget is officially approved, hopefully in April, we take a couple days off, right, Mrs. Camry? And then we're right back at it in June and July, talking about FY26. So there's a lot of work that goes into this, and we are going to be spending a lot of time together to talk through this. So for example, tomorrow, here's a little public service announcement. We do have a finance committee meeting where we are going to break the budget down for you. We're going to have many conversations. We also have a public hearing in 2 weeks on February 6th, and we are also tentatively looking at having a meeting with the Board of Supervisors to have a joint work session to go through this and get feedback from them as well. And as we've talked about and spoke about, I think that's a really good move for us in the right direction. We had the meeting in November to continue them in these conversations and answer any questions that they might have. And then we will have continuous meetings and conversations even after February 20th, where you all will then decide what that budget needs to be, and you will either change, adjust, or approve it as is. And we will continue to have conversations about that process. Now, for most of you, you were part of the meeting that we had back in October, where we've established what's called budget priorities. And these budget priorities have not shifted drastically. We added a couple components to these budget priorities, but a couple highlights to these. First, overarching, they're going to focus on instructional initiatives, compensation packages for our staff, and then taking a look at our current assets. And I'm going to break each of those down for each one of my proposals, so you'll see exactly why we're making those recommendations. The other aspect of these budget priorities, and something we spoke about and we will continue to speak about, is we need to do a better job of looking ahead. And there are going to be some different budget proposals where I'm going to say this is going to be the start of a 5-year process to get to an end game in regards to addressing our compensation packages, addressing the staff that we need in our buildings, as well as taking a look at other aspects of our budget moving forward. And I will make mention of those throughout this budget presentation because that's very important for you to know and to realize, and then to answer any questions that you might have. The other aspect that we factor into this budget, again, this is not done in isolation, is we work through our strategic plan, which was approved by our school board 4 years ago now. This strategic plan is FY25, so we are going to be in the process, of readjusting or starting fresh with a new strategic plan at the end of next year. But for right now, this is our strategic plan, where we focus on student success, culture, strategic partnerships, and high-quality staff. And we want to make sure that we continue to focus on them so that we can continue to achieve our goals and move our school division forward in the direction that we want it to go in. And again, focusing on the needs of our students. That is going to be number one throughout this entire presentation. So with that being said, I do want to take some time to talk about all of the wonderful things that we do here in Frederick County, as well as all of the great things that our students are doing, because they are at the heart of what we need to do every day, the work you do, the work that I do, and the work that all of our 2,500 staff do. It is our students. So let's take a look at that. First, we have 21 school sites and over 14,000 students. And of those 14,000 students, we have a wide range of needs. And we have to factor in those needs when we take a look at staffing, when we take a look at resources, and when we take a look at meeting the needs of each of those students. That is a lot of students to keep track of, and that is why just earlier we were congratulating our principals for all their hard work, because a lot of that falls on their shoulders. We also have a lot of specific programs for our students, CTE. We have advanced placement classes. We also have partnerships with local universities. Take a look at the number of miles that our buses travel in a year. That's not 10-year span, 5 years, that's in a year. That is a lot of miles that our bus drivers drive, our amazing students to and from school, field trips, everything else that they do. So there's a lot of miles that they travel. Take a look at the lunches that they serve and the breakfasts that they serve. You all didn't know we were a food service, did you? We're bigger than most restaurants in the area, right? Like that is huge, and that is a lot of work, and it's a lot that you all should be very proud of, because you all help with that to make sure that we are driving our students safely and feeding our students safely as well. We also have a lot of items and things that we've done differently as we continue to move forward and meet the needs of our students. Again, that promise for progress. So for example, we started the school year off with a transition day, where we started with our rising kindergartners, our rising sixth, our rising ninth, because that transition time is so important for our students. Again, we want to make sure we're not just doing things for the sake of doing them. We want to do things because it's in the best interest of our students, so that we can continue to move the needle to do what's best for all of our kids. We're also starting new programs, such as a student advisory committee of hearing from our students, getting more information for them so they can drive these needs. Again, this was not done in isolation. And then we're also doing a lot more to recognize our staff, as well as all of the great things that our students are doing on a regular basis. But we have a lot of work to do. I want to make sure that we focus on the great things that we're doing, and I don't ever want to lose that optic of all those great things. But I also want to make sure that we are very well aware that we have some work to do. And there are some areas of our school division that we need to focus on so that we can continue to improve. Now, each of these indicators, such as SOL scores, chronic absenteeism, and student behavior, those are all just one component of the whole child. There are other aspects of things that our students do that we measure, but these are going to be the main ones that we continue to focus on, and they're the main ones that I know they're at the forefront of each of your minds as well, so we want to make sure that we are showing how we are making progress through each of these items. So first is SOL scores, and again, this is one indicator to determine if a student is making progress or not. As we've done in instructional committee meetings, and we will continue to do that, there are certain aspects of student performance where they've gained or they've gotten better. And there's other aspects where they've not gotten better. So keep in mind, these scores are overall history, math, reading, and science. So this was in 2021. This was 21-22. And again, want to be full disclosure here. If you take a look at these scores and you go from 21-22 to 22-23, we are not getting better. And this is why we have to focus on what we're providing our teachers, the resources we're providing them. We need to make sure that we're keeping good teachers, attracting good teachers, and really dive down into why is this happening. Now again, it's not across the board. This is total scores. There are some aspects where we are increasing, there are some levels that we are decreasing, but overall, as a county, for total scores, we are going down. So this is something that we will have to address, and we'll have to make sure that we are investing in that so that we can continue to improve. Here's something that, we're proud of this because we're first. However, I'm not happy with this. We're 15% in regards to chronic absenteeism compared to our school divisions within a 30-mile radius. We are first, but it is important for our students to be in school. Now, COVID did not do us any favors in regards to students being home, and we want to make sure that we continue to encourage our parents to send their kids to school unless there is a specific reason, which there always is, but sometimes there isn't. So we want to make sure that we're working with our families. There's a lot of efforts with All in Virginia dollars that we are focusing on, our student support teams, as well as our principals, to make sure that we're thinking outside of the box and creatively of getting our kids to school so that we can continue to help them learn and thus increasing our scores, because students are not learning when they're at home. They're not. So we want to make sure that we're focused on that and moving forward. Another aspect, there's a lot of things that keep me up at night, and I think a lot of you know that. But one of the things that is on that list of keeping me up at night is definitely the behaviors and discipline in schools. This is something we definitely need to focus on. This is something that we are working through our code of conduct and our administrators and how we can do better with this. I think there's a lot of variables to this. I think the variables are we need to make sure that we are enforcing our code of conduct. However, I would go on a limb and say that I think that some of the overcrowding in our classrooms and our schools is definitely impacting this. Not the ultimate variable, but I guarantee you that it is impacting that. Also taking a look at our staff, making sure they have the right resources and supports to work with our students, and making sure that we have licensed teachers. Now, we love our provisional licensed teachers. We love our long-term subs. They do a great job of filling that void until we can find a teacher, but they're not a licensed teacher. So we want to make sure that we have the right staff in front of our students in our buildings on a longer period scale so that we are able to work through these behaviors and address each of these needs. So as you can see, at elementary, at middle, and at high, we are increasing in some of these referrals. Now, again, if you look specifically at each school, some are going up, some are going down. This is overall, and these aren't new numbers. This is what I presented to you back in October, and we actually had an instructional committee meeting where we talked through this. So there is going to be more to come on this. We are revamping our code of conduct, which will be presented to you all in a very short period, and then we're also going to be providing more level training for our principals. But I would also argue that we can't always think about reactive. We have to think proactively. What are we doing proactively to provide positive behavioral supports for our students, as well as working with our administrators to make sure that we have consistent programs across the board? Because some principals are doing that, some principals aren't, but we need to make sure that we are doing that more consistently and providing the resources to do that. So I just want to make sure I provided you some information in regards to the great things that are happening, as well as some of the things that we want to focus on moving forward. So next, let's jump into my budget proposal to you all to take into consideration. We have 3 separate funds. We did dive into this last week during our budget work session, so I'm not going to spend too much time about explaining each of these funds. I'm going to talk a little bit about them because we talked about it last week, but again, if you have any questions, please let me know. But 3 funds we're going to talk about this evening: operating, debt service fund, and our capital projects. So if you recall, when I came on board, one of the very many promises that I made to you was we would be good fiscal stewards of our dollar. We would make sure that we were being efficient with how we were spending our money, and we would take a look at every angle of our current budget so that we were spending that efficiently, so that we were returning that investment in the right aspects of our school division. So I challenged my staff, and I greatly appreciate our finance department and our other departments to do a deeper dive into each of our line item budgets to see where can we find some savings so we can utilize dollars somewhere else. And we found $485,000 that we can reallocate in other aspects of our budget. And this is huge because there have been some line items that were untouched, and we want to make sure that we are reallocating that and not just leave that and carry that over. So we want to make sure that we're doing a deeper dive with our budget, being better fiscally responsible with our money so that we can continue again to get and meet the needs of our students. So this is one aspect that I wanted to share with you because this was a really big deal. Now, as we dive into the operating budget, I want to make sure that we don't forget we are a system of people, not of things. We have 2,500 hard-working staff members with hearts bigger than this state in regards to what they do for our students. We want to make sure that we keep them. We want to make sure that we attract more good people, and we want to make sure that we provide them the resources they need. And I'm not just talking about your superintendent. I'm talking about our counselors, our bus drivers, our instructional assistants, our principals, our teachers, all of them, all of our staff matter to us, and we want to make sure that we are keeping that in mind when we work through this budget, because that is a big portion of this operating budget. Our people is what make Frederick County a great place to be. So here's a quick snapshot. I'm going to break this down, but here's a quick snapshot of the initial budget proposal in regards to pay increases across the board. So for teachers, we're looking at an average of 6.6%. We're looking at classified staff, 6.6%. I'm going to break that down for you here in a second, as I mentioned. Other professionals, which I'll break down who they are in a second, is 5%, and then administrators and supervisors, 3.2%. Now, you might be asking yourself, where'd you get the 3.2 from? Well, the 3.2 is the COLA. And you know we love our acronyms, but COLA we do not own. That is from the Social Security Administration Office, and that is the cost of living adjustment. Essentially what that is saying is, due to where the economy is, due to inflation, what does that pay increase need to be for somebody to make a honest living? And right now that number is established at 3.2. So we don't make that number up. That's a number that was given to us. So that is where we started across the board. So we started at teachers at 3.2. And then if you notice there's the step average and then the scale average. So we increased the step on that scale as well as a pay increase on that scale. So that's where we got combining those two numbers to get the 3.2. Then we have our administrators, supervisors, and then our professionals. And our professionals are going to be our therapists, our psychologists, our CSAs. That is where we have those other professionals. Next is we wanted to make sure that we really focused on our classified staff. Now, one promise that I made to you all last week and I continue to make is we do not want to get into the habit of comparing staff against each other. They all do a great job for us. They all work hard. We don't want to say one works harder than the other. We don't want to do that because they all do a great job for their craft and what they were hired to do. However, with our classified staff, we are falling behind not only comparing to other school divisions, but to retail. And if we are not able to compete with retail, we are going to lose some really great people. Bus drivers, instructional aides, custodians, nutritional staff. So we want to make sure that we're able to keep up with not only other divisions, but with other retail organizations or stores that are right here in Frederick County. So we want to make sure that we are honoring that. And as you saw, the average rate for the increase for classified staff is 6.6, and that is why you see that additional 3.4 there. Another issue that we've discussed for the remaining board, we've discussed this in previous budget meetings, and then for the new board, you heard this last week, is we have a problem with our pay scales in regards to the clustering of certain years. So for example, we have 5 to 10, so if you're a 5-year teacher, you're getting paid the same as a 9-year teacher. So we want to make sure that we are unclustering that and we're fixing that. So in order to do that, here's the first of a couple of we're going to look at doing a 3 to 5 year phase. Because in order to fix that whole pay scale, it's a little over $14 million. We're not going to be able to do that in one budget cycle. So we want to try to do that gradually as we move up to that 5th year. If we can do it sooner, great. If we get a huge influx of dollars from the state or there's additional revenue, we can talk about that from the county. But for right now, that is our recommendation as we slowly move forward to that so we can break up that cluster and again be more competitive. So with that, there's an additional pay increase for our teachers and for other staff. Then we also want to stay competitive in regards to our first-year teachers. And as you know, this is something we spoke about last year, and this is something that we'll have to continue to keep an eye on as we look at neighboring school divisions. So we are recommending we start at $52,000 for our new teachers so that we can attract those new teachers coming out of college, and that is the dollar amount if we started that off for this upcoming year. Next up is we want to honor our veteran teachers. We also want to honor our teachers that are been here for 8, 9, 10 years and have something to look forward to besides showing up to a classroom of students. And that is very rewarding, but we also have to make sure that our staff are compensated so that they can make a living. So one of the things that we want to do, this is another phased in, is we would like to get to honoring our teachers that have 15 or more years experience. But as you can imagine, as we get lower into those years, we have more staff, so that dollar figure is going to continue to rise. I would like to suggest we start at 25 years, next year we go to 20, and the following year we get to 15, because another piece of data that we provided to you all is that 15 years or more is where staff are leaving and going to Loudoun and Fairfax, because that is where there's a significant pay bump. So we want to keep our teachers here, provide them with some recognition for staying in Frederick County, and compensating them for that as well. We've also identified some hard-to-fill positions. And that is, again, we don't want to compete people against each other. This is across the board for all of our hard-to-fill positions, from special ed to general ed to support staff. So we're going to start with a $2,000, essentially a sign-on bonus for these hard-to-fill positions. That is going to be a starting point for us, and if we want to increase that in future budgets, we can do that as well. One of the pieces of information that we heard from our principals was twofold. The first fold is we are having a hard time finding substitutes. Now, finding the contracted subs is definitely helping, but there still is an issue. So two pieces to this. The first piece is we want to increase that daily rate for our substitutes so they can actually, again, earn money when they come in and do this. And secondly, one of the things that you don't see up here, but we will be able to take care of this through our current fiscal dollars, is how we compensate teachers and instructional aides from actually subbing in classes, which we have that. If we don't have a substitute, a class just doesn't go uncovered. We need to have somebody in that classroom. So teachers are giving up their planning. Now, is that something we like? No. But unfortunately, it's where we are, and it's happening more frequently than I think most people realize. So that is something that we are also working through as well. We're also focusing on our bus drivers, which we have a bus driver shortage. I've talked to our bus drivers all the time, get their feedback and input. We have Mr. Shepard who's leading them and doing a fantastic job, but I want to make sure that we are doing some things for them so that we can attract more bus drivers, keep them, so hopefully the increase in the 6.6 will attract them. We're working on this. And then there's some other things that we are taking a look at well in regards to how they're getting compensated for field trips and their daily rate. So there's some other things that we're taking a look there as well. And that is feedback that we receive from those bus drivers to share that we are listening to these requests, so then we are taking those into consideration. Next up is part of the governor's proposed biennium budget, and that's every 2 years. And right now, that has been sent to the General Assembly for consideration. Keep in mind that hasn't been passed yet. That is just his budget proposal. Hopefully, right, Ms. Camry, will be done in April. Hopefully, be nice. But right now, there is a 1% bonus in the first year of the biennium. The second part of the biennium is a 2% pay increase. So this is something that we want to, again, keep in here. This would be a good gesture for our staff to give them a 1% maybe check near the holidays. We're kind of working through those pieces. And again, we want your feedback on this as well. But that's essentially what we were thinking through. So that's a 1% bonus for all staff. And that's money that we would be getting from the state, and then that's the local dollars that we would need to front for that cost. So next up is our staffing standards, and I presented this. We had many conversations throughout the course of the year, but it was finally proposed and approved in December, and we've had some conversations about this. And to keep in mind, this staffing standards was done for a bunch of reasons, but for two main reasons. One, to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our students at each of our schools, and number two, to make sure that we're being more fiscally responsible with our positions, making sure that we are removing the subjectivity of adding positions and being more objective. Again, being better stewards of our dollar and getting the positions we need in front of our students. It is going to take time. This is going to be a phased-in approach, and as I mentioned to you all, I want to focus on this year getting staff in front of our students. We would like students from college, but now getting staff in front of our students. So that is the phase that we're going to be focusing on for this year. The column that I want you to focus on, and hopefully you're seeing this theme, is that middle column. So what we did is, after this was approved in December, we met with each and every principal, and thank you to Dr. Angelo and his team for doing that. That was a lot of work, and I really appreciate him taking that on. And when he met with each and every principal, we drew out the staffing standards. We took a look at the current students they had. We took a look at the needs of the students. And we were able to identify in that middle column staff that we need, but we need them in other locations in the county. And that's huge. Because we can just continue to say, because if you look at that first column, it started with over 40 position requests. But we wanted to come forward with an honest budget to say we looked at our current positions and we were able to move some positions around to get to a total of 25 FTE position requests. Now, we have this broken down where each of these positions are, of course, but this is just an overall picture of our positions and as we continue to move forward of being, again, fiscally responsible with how we're allocating positions in our school division. The next up is, after conversations with Mr. Thompson, who, by the way, is doing a fantastic job up at Dowell J. The first thing is we're trying to change the mantra of Dowell J. For those that have been in this county for many years, Dowell J has been known as where the bad kids go. Well, first off, there's no such thing as a bad kid. And secondly, that's not the intention of Dowell J. Dowell J is a place that we have opportunities for students from both ends of the spectrum, from CTE to students that have a situation or a circumstance that they are not able to obtain their credits, and we want to help them graduate. We had roughly over 60 students that didn't graduate last year, 60. That keeps me up at night, and I made a promise to you that that needs to be 0. We need to get all of our students graduated every year. And of those 60 students, there's a large portion of them that have some obligations during the day. Be it they need to work to feed their family, be it they're raising their own family. Whatever that circumstance is, they are not able to get to school during the day. So we are proposing to start a night school, which we have a number of students that would be very interested in this, so that we can help them attain their credits so that they can graduate and they can be good contributors of society. Because there is a significant pay difference from somebody that has a diploma, high school diploma, and somebody that does not. And we want to make sure that we are providing that opportunity for them. And this was definitely, we believe, some low-hanging fruit to provide some opportunities for our students. This is one of many ideas that Mr. Thompson has, which I'm very proud of him, but this is a good start in the right direction so we can catch these students to help them graduate. Next up, again, when I first started, safety is number 1 for me, and it's always going to be number 1 for me. So much so that we were able to find a supervisor of safety and security, and Mr. Tim Conlon is doing an outstanding job of getting out into schools, talking with administrators, talking with Mr. Goodwin and myself to determine where do we have areas of weakness in regards to making sure our students and our staff are safe, and our community for that matter. So we are starting at a $100,000 budget so we can take a look at intruder locks on interior doors and focusing on cameras as well as some other things. As we've mentioned to you all, there's going to be grant opportunities, there's going to be other revenues that we can take a look at. This is a starting point. We are going to focus on the high priorities, and then we are going to get into all the other items that we need to take a look at. There's going to be other items that we will be presenting to you to take into consideration, but this is going to be a good focus for us and a good starting point moving forward, because we really have to focus on that safety, as you know. Next up is we have in our operating budget, we have funds for our transportation department, and in that rotation of budget, there are 6 new buses every year. We all agree that that is not enough, because as you can see, you saw the miles that our buses travel every year, and you can see a lot of buses there that are out of service or we need spare parts. So we determined a 13 bus cycle every year, so we will be in good shape for our buses moving forward. And buses break down, and we want to make sure that we avoid that. So we want to add 2 additional buses to those 6, so that will get us to 8 every year, and we want to get to that 13. And again, another phased-in approach as we get closer to that 13, but right now hopefully this will get us to the 8 buses every year. And thank you to the Board of Supervisors for letting us spend those overage of dollars back in December, and we were able to buy some additional buses there as well. So thank you to the Board of Supervisors for allowing us to do that. So next up, which I know there are a lot of questions about, which I am thankful and grateful for, we presented a snippet of this proposal last week, and we know we've received a lot of questions, which I thank you all. Please continue to send our questions in. And I think it was very timely that Mrs. Stein-Dollner came in and provided some information, because some questions came up last week about summer meals and such, so that was really good that she came in to do that. So I want to provide a deeper dive into the CEP, which is the Community Eligibility Provision. So again, not an acronym we created, but an acronym you need to be familiar with. So currently, let's talk about currently. Currently, there are 3 ways that a student can eat. The first way is they can buy their lunch. Second way is they can have what's called free and reduced lunch. There's an application they fill out, and it's either free or at a reduced cost. Or if they're at one of 9 schools, CEP, they eat for free regardless if they're number 1 or number 2. Now, I want to make sure that we're very clear on this as we continue to have these conversations, and regardless of how this pans out, is if a student is in need of eating, he will eat. He or she will eat. And I want to make that very, very clear. So if there's a student that forgot their lunch, a student that didn't fill out the application, or whatever the reason is, if a student needs a lunch, we do not prevent them from getting one, a breakfast or a lunch. I want to make that very clear. Secondly, if this doesn't move forward, this doesn't mean that we don't want to feed students. This is just something for us to catch those students, and there's a bunch of different examples as to why a student might not be eating breakfast or lunch, as, again, Elise mentioned to us. And we really doesn't matter what those reasons are, because we don't want to dive into those family reasons, but those reasons exist. And as Mrs. Stein-Dollner presented, and in research that we've conducted and done, if you're not eating, you're not learning. It is a basic need of life, and we want to make sure that we address that. So as a county, right now we are at 43% free and reduced lunch across the board. 43%. There's another aspect of this called an ISP, another acronym, right? We love our acronyms, which is the individual student percentage, which is the best way to describe it. It's another layer of the free and reduced percentage. It's a specific circumstance, such as someone who's homeless or another circumstance. And that percentage as a county is 37%. So we were able to find that percentage. That is important to know because before October, the percent for us to qualify a school as CEP was 40%. If you take a look after October now, that percentage has decreased to 25%. So we technically qualify for 20 of our 21 schools. There's one school that is less than that 25%, but per the state and the federal government, we can actually factor them into another school if we do move forward with this so that they would qualify for free lunch and breakfast across the board. The next aspect to this is we have a nutrition fund, and that fund is funded by two means currently. It's funded by the reimbursements that we get from CEP, and it's also funded by the students at the other 12 sites that are paying for their breakfast and their lunch. You might be thinking, well, why do we have a nutrition fund? Well, that nutrition fund is how they operate, how they pay their staff, how they feed their students, how they buy materials. So that fund needs to be at a certain dollar amount so they're able to operate accordingly and efficiently. If we continue to increase the number of schools that are CEP, we would have to essentially add dollars to that fund because the reimbursement dollars that we receive is not going to match the dollars that is needed in that fund. Now, we have a projection of what that's going to look like, but that's all we have at this point. The other piece that I want to mention to this is, and this can go anywhere, but this is just full disclosure for you all, is there are two bills right now that are in the General Assembly that is taking a look at this. And we hope that they actually get passed because hopefully that means more dollars that we can receive so that we can feed more students, so that we can catch those students that might not be eating or not filling out the application or whatever the reason is, as I mentioned to you earlier. So the $2.2 million, again, is to add dollars to that fund, the nutrition fund, so that we can keep operating accordingly. This does not feed students over the summer, as we talked about with questions. As you saw, there is a modality for us to do that. It is not technically our responsibility to do that, but we have a modality to do that. So this is just to feed students during the day when they come into school for breakfast and for lunch. Okay, so definitely some more information. I know there's probably going to be more questions, which we encourage, and we want to make sure that we get all the facts straight so that we make sure that you are well informed if this is something you want to move forward with. The last thing that I want to mention, because I want to make sure, again, we're full disclosure with this proposal, that in the near future, say if we stick with the 9 schools, in the near future, we potentially will have to add dollars to that nutritional fund, again, to make up that balance because the reimbursement does not fund that fund where it needs to be so we can operate efficiently. And I want to make sure that we're very clear on that because I don't want, if this doesn't pass and then in 2 years say, well, hey, we need these dollars for these 9 schools, I want to make sure that you have that information so that we can talk through it and we're full disclosure with those details. And that's a projection. It might happen, it might not. We might get additional dollars from the federal reimbursement. So just to throw that out there, I want to make sure that we have all the facts whenever we're making a decision here. Okay? So with that being said, for the operating dollars, as you can see, the current proposal that the governor has proposed, not approved yet, is receiving an additional $10 million. We are decreasing in federal, but don't panic because those federal dollars is what we received through ESSER and COVID, so that naturally is going to happen with a cliff. We also are receiving $35,000 less there. And you might be asking, what's fees, other charges? And there's a multitude of items that can be in there. For example, we rent our facilities out to folks, so if we get revenue from that, or if we have an insurance claim and we get some additional dollars. As you can see, it's not a large sum of money, but it's a pot of money that we have. So with that being said, we are requesting, what I am requesting, again, not you all just yet, is a little under $8 million over our cost to continue, and then for total revenue of $10 million. So the next fund I want to talk about a little bit is our debt service fund, and we currently have two projects that we're working through right now. We have the James Wood High, and then we have the Indian Hollow, which is very close to being completed. Hopefully we can do another ribbon cutting for that. So if you can see from FY24 to FY25, see how it increases. So we need to make up the difference there. So that is a debt that we need to request from the county, because we don't hold the debt, but we have to pay off our debt. So 2.35 million is a dollar figure that we have to request from downtown. The last item that I want to discuss with you all is our CEP projects. CEP. Look at me with my acronyms. CAP, Capital Asset Plan. And these capital asset plan or asset projects are our current items, and we mentioned this to you all last week, in regards to all of our current assets and items that we have. And we keep track of those. And last year, we did not receive the dollars that we requested. However, again, thanks to the Board of Supervisors, we were able to spend some of those lapsed dollars, those overage of dollars we received in December from the state. We were able to take care of some of these projects which have been removed from this list. But as you can see, and I want to make sure that we're very clear on this, that $19 million is because we are not taking care of the projects that have been on this list for many years. And as you can see, we put the years over there to the right of how long they've been on this list. Some of them have been on here since 2023. So that is why that dollar figure is where it is. But I want to make sure that we're very clear that each of these funds are separate. We have the capital asset plan, we have the operating, and then we have the debt service fund. Those are three separate funds and three separate, essentially, requests. So lastly, in closing, as I mentioned to you all, we have a bunch of meetings coming up. I do want to draw your attention to that February 13th meeting. That is, I'm recommending as doing a whole board work session so that we can talk through the budget before you all talk on February 20th to approve this budget before it goes across the street for approval. As I mentioned to you all, we're working on a joint work session. We're also working on a time that I will be presenting to the Board of Supervisors as well, which will be after you all approve it, because at that point it will be your budget, and we're working on those dates and times currently. Lastly, and this is a public service announcement for those listening at home and for those in the audience, is we have 3 budget town halls that I'll be presenting this budget, but the majority of it is going to be getting feedback and input from the constituents who participate, staff, for you all if you are interested. But I look forward to this time so that I can gain more insight and input from all of the aspects of our school division and make sure that we have a lot of feedback and input when we're moving forward with this. So that's going to be those 3 meetings there. And I just want to give you, again, a big thank you. I appreciate all your work that you're doing and looking forward to all the questions that you have. And I will open up if there's any general or overarching questions that you would like to ask.
Mr. Chair? Dr. Hummer, when you were talking about the 43% of the county qualifies for free and reduced lunch countywide, you mentioned 37%, and I did not take copious notes to know what that 37%
Thank you for clarifying. So the 43 is free and reduced. The 37 is the ISP percentage.
ISP.
And that is what determines CEP. We're over that 25 because 37 as a county. And I have that broken down at each school as well, which I can share with you all if you are interested.
That would be great, yes.
I'm more than happy to do that.
Mr. Chair. Dr. Hummer, I want to say thank you for prioritizing the SOLs, the absenteeism, and the discipline issues that we have. And I do think that a lot of what the budget's going for will help hopefully remedy some of those problems and get us back on track and push us above and beyond. I also want to talk about Dow J. FCPS 101, we had that meeting over there, was phenomenal. I wish more community members could have shown up to that, but I understand, everybody's got lives and stuff. But it is, just like you said, it's more than just where the bad kids go. And like you, I hate using that term. But, we have, Mr. Ben Thompson back there is doing a lot of great work over there with CTE programs, getting kids interested in life skills and putting people out there for the workforce. I know last year on our instruction committee, led by Mrs. White, we had students come in and talk about the different programs that they're involved in with, different learning abilities and kind of tailoring that so that they can get those credits so that they can graduate and get them back on point. So fantastic job out there, Mr. Ben Thompson. I really appreciate what you're doing. Once again, principal recognition. But when I go down here to the CEP program,
Yes, sir.
I'm looking at, instead of kind of jumping and putting everybody in, and I know it'd be a big shock for tax dollars and budgets, and I know we're trying to prioritize a lot of things here, and we do have other programs like Bright Futures that do help out. Is this something that can be phased in, or do we have to jump from 0 to 100?
Absolutely, and that's a great question, Mr. Atkins. So, also to be full disclosure, we do not have to participate in the CEP program. Not recommending that, but if
Right.
that is the will of the board, we don't have to. We have to fill out a waiver for it, but we don't have to participate. So we could phase this in. Absolutely, we can do that. And what we could do is we can take a look at our schools that have the highest percentage, and we can do a little bit more math with working with nutrition and our finance department to see if there is a more palatable number as we can work towards the $2 million or whatever that is. So absolutely. And we are going to break that down for you further in a finance committee meeting coming up. But thank you for that question. It's a great question, and that's something we can definitely look into more.
Yeah, and my thoughts around that are, we do have other programs that do help out, and not everybody out there, just like I talked about in the last meeting, is going to require that free and reduced lunch. And I'm glad that we're not turning students away, and I think that we should be able to feed those students. I just don't want, like my concerns at the finance committee meeting, food sitting on the shelves, going to waste or anything like that. And I know our nutrition staff is fantastic at monitoring that kind of stuff, but
Yes, sir.
It's a new program coming in to a lot of these schools, and it would take some adjustment. As far as the CEP reimbursement, I know you only have a projection of that. What is that? What are we getting back on that? Like, if we spend $1, how much are we getting back on that?
So I know we were looking at getting those numbers together. I don't know if do we have those tonight, Patty, to share?
I don't have them tonight, but they are in the Friday packet. We put the numbers in there because that question was asked of Mrs. Klein, I think asked that. So it is in the Friday packet that's going out to you all, but I
Okay.
don't have it right here in
So
front
we'll
of me.
get that to you. And please, Mr. Atkins, these are great questions. Continue to ask these questions. If we're not able to answer them now at our committee meeting, we will get those responses to you. So please keep those questions coming, and we can get that to you.
I appreciate that.
Yes,
and
sir.
Lastly, you hit on those town halls. For all those out there watching at home, people in the audience, these town halls, come out, ask questions. You can come out, ask questions to the superintendent. I know some of us board members get in the audience. We're kind of just there as audience members, but please come up and ask us questions about kind of our thoughts on some of the stuff on the budgets, and give us your ideas and what's important to you as a community. And the education for your children, because, we're the representatives up here. We need to hear from you. So it does take a community to help foster these children. So please reach out to us at any time. Reach out to the superintendent. He's very open and transparent. And that would be all I've got. So thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Mr. Bell.
The two bills that you mentioned that's in the General Assembly, do you have any further information on those?
I do. And if you look in the weekly last week, and we'll put it in this week as well, we are going to keep up with all of the bills that are in the General Assembly. Do you, off the top of your head, know those numbers?
I've already pulled them. So one of them is a Senate bill. It's 283.
283.
As of right now, it has been reported from Education and Health Committee, and it's been re-referred to Finance and Appropriations.
Okay.
The other bill is HB 686. That one has been reported from the Education Committee and has been re-referred to the Committee on Appropriations.
There you go. And we will keep up with that as we get updates on those bills in the weekly so that you guys have that information. Great question.
Because that could lower the 2.2 million.
We're hopeful. Yes. It'd be nice.
Just for clarification, so it was Senate Bill 283 and House Bill 686, correct?
686, let me just double check, 283, yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bell.
And just one more question.
Please,
and-
Mr.
and
Sturdivant, yes.
As we're new here, we're learning all about this.
Yes, sir.
Now, this CEP program, and to clarify, nothing has been cast in stone yet, correct?
Everything that I presented to you this evening is my needs-based budget to you based on all of the information I presented. It is now in your court. We will walk through this in finance committee meetings, through other conversations, and then you all will approve your budget on February 20th, which could be an adjustment to this. It could be plus, it could be minus, it could be other things. And then we'll talk through that. And then once that's approved, that's what goes across the street. Great question.
And I understand the cost of it, and some people have questioned the cost of this program, and I understand, but the impact on the taxpayer, how do you see that as a whole on the county? Is that, I don't think that that's going to be.
Well, generally speaking, our budget is funded through, and I can pull back up this slide here. Give me a second, just to show you here. Okay, so our budget is funded through 4 different main avenues. Now, of course, we get grant dollars and all these other things, but that's not significant. These are the significant revenues. So we get state, we get federal, we get local, and then we get other fees, as I mentioned, okay? So if you take a look at the total budget, you look at the total number of taxpayers, and then you divide that by how much we get from federal and how much we get from state and local, that's what that total dollar amount for the citizen would be, which won't be significant, but yes, it will be an additional dollar figure that the citizen potentially could get added on. This is also something that we will have conversations about with the county administrator in downtown, is taking a look at the revenues that are currently there, and if there's other ways to fund what we are requesting, or if there needs to be a conversation at their level, because we don't determine this in regards to what tax rate needs to be in order to fund not only us, but the other entities that are in Frederick County. So the exact dollar amount, Mr. Sturtevant, I think that's a great question. I really don't know how we would calculate that, but again, we would calculate that by breaking it down by percentage, because the other percentage is we're not the largest entity in Frederick County either. There's other entities that access those taxpayer dollars, and we want, again, that's why I highlighted this in this presentation, we want to be good stewards of that dollar. We want to make sure that we're looking at our line items, we're looking at our positions. These are not this is not a wish list. This is based on feedback from our principals, from our teachers, looking at our data, getting our students what they need, and really focusing on that return on investment in why the taxpayer needs to provide the dollars in order for to get what we need. What does that return on investment mean for the citizen, and what does that return on investment need for our students and their future? And those are the questions I love, because I want us to be able to address those so that we can talk through those together, because we're going to get those questions. And I want to be able to respectfully work through those questions so that we can talk through them.
One more final question.
Please, please.
And if we were to approve this CEP program, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, should we approve this, then for the average homeowner who has children in the school, they are going to be saving a significant amount on meals, are they not?
So I'm actually really glad you brought that up. So right now at our 9 schools, average, not total at each of the schools, average, because the 9 CEP schools, every student in that school can access the CEP, free breakfast and lunch. We're at about 60% of that population is accessing. So when we say the CEP program is for feed all students breakfast and lunch, that's not all 14,000 students. Now, can all 14,000 students access that? Sure they can. But is it going to be every student accessing that? No, because like you said, we do have some families that are going to be able to afford it, and we're also going to have some families that don't necessarily qualify for the free and reduced lunch, but as you're insinuating, they might not have the means to actually provide breakfast and lunch on a regular basis, and this would definitely help with that aspect. So across the board, it would help, yes.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair? One thing I would also like to see, and I've done my own research on CEP programs and how they could potentially reduce the cost of administrative fees, of the lunch line, service line, if you will, personnel. I would really be curious to see some projections on how, if we were to approve this and we were to have free lunch and breakfast for everyone, how would that reduce the administrative costs and the logistical cost, if there's a dollar amount that we can apply to that? Because that is something that would be a reduction, and I think would be a kind of very much of a pro, and go into the calculus of the one-for-one reimbursement as well.
Gotcha. No, I think that'll be good for us to take a look at, again, to be good stewards of our dollar, Mrs. Klein, and absolutely, we can take a look at that.
Great, thank you.
Of course.
Mr. Chair, to get off the CEP topic, I wanted to go ahead and talk about some of the proposed raises for our teachers, our staff,
sure,
and so forth. I know that, not giving anything away from closed session, but I know when we do lose teachers and we track that data, we do lose staff members, teachers, and everything else to what you said, local retail, local restaurants, other local businesses. And I do think this is going to be something that not only makes us competitive outside the county with the other counties within a 30-mile radius, but it's also going to make us competitive within the county, keeping those teachers. So I'm all about that. I really appreciate our finance department kind of looking at that, our finance committee's looking at that, and work that the previous board has already laid out for this budget. So I mean, if there's something we can do as far as, I know you've already talked about the sign-on bonuses for the hard-to-fill positions. I know ESL is one of the big ones. Some of the other special needs assistants and teachers, and it's really hard to get those staff members. So if we can scalp them from other counties, so be it.
That'd be nice, yeah.
So thank you guys for doing all that work, putting in that legwork. I appreciate everything you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Atkins.
Questions?
No, but I would like to make a plea, as it were, to the citizens in the county to take advantage of all of this going on right now, the openness and the wanting to understand and know their concerns. And please get in touch with any of us, not just a complaint, but a concern, and also come to the town meetings. Meet your neighbors and meet Dr. Hummer and other administratives that show up and talk about what you want to see happen in our schools.
Thank you.
Anything further?
Chairman. Thank you, Dr. Hummer, for this presentation. I know that we're going to be seeing a lot more from you in the coming weeks as, being a part of the Finance Committee. I can't really think of very much more basic needs that our school has in feeding our children, transporting our children, transporting our children, and better compensation packages. I think that everybody wants to be compensated fairly for the work that we do. And we can see from the last presentation on the work session that Virginia is falling behind. So we have work to do. And, I've said we are a county of haves. I think we have the ability to do this. I'm looking forward to all the ins and outs. Very pleased with your hard work and the turnaround in a year. I think it's visible to the community and the relationships that you've built, not just with the Board of Supervisors, but with the school communities and the children. I've seen children interact with you, and you're always open, and you're finding ways to get to our community and get down to the heart. So thank you for all the work that you've done. I know that, and also to our finance department and our other administrators, and this is no easy task.
Thank you, Mrs. White.
Thank you,
Okay,
Dr.
thank you, Mr. Sturbeck.
Next on our agenda is unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business?
No, Mr. Chair.
Sir?
We've got
Oh, well, that's next. Next is new business. Is there any new business?
we've got the committee report from the Building and Grounds Committee, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
All right. The Building and Grounds Committee met at the Frederick County Public Schools Administration Building on January 18th, 2024. The meeting was called to order at 4:30 p.m., and a copy of the minutes has been provided to each board member. During the meeting, Mr. Davis discussed the capital projects list, highlights including the transportation, HVAC, the Millbrook High School roof, and the fire alarm projects at Apple Pie Ridge School and Dow J. Howard Center. Mr. Goodwin gave an update on the completion of the retaining wall at Frederick County Middle School. He explained that the integrity of the wall was examined and confirmed the drainage pipe was snaked to eliminate possible future concerns, and no issues were found. Mr. Lee discussed the easement across Frederick County Middle School property that was requested by Shenandoah Valley Electric Company to provide power to the public safety radio tower that is being constructed there. Mr. Goodwin shared that the Frederick water easement topic was postponed due to an unforeseen unavailability of a representative from the company. He also discussed the property that is for sale adjacent to Shenandoah High School, which is zoned as rural RA, rural area RA. Sorry, tough word for me. Mr. Kenny reviewed the conclusion of the renovations at Indian Hollow Elementary School, and the hope to do additional work on the inside for mechanical areas. He also shared that the renovation at Jameswood High School is continuing on the core areas with an expected completion and turnover date of June 15, 2024 for the core areas and July 31st, 2024 for the concourse and gym area. Mr. Goodwin shared that the restroom redesign concepts at Jameswood High School with staff working with RRMM architects for a potential redesign of group restrooms near the existing cafeteria. These restrooms are proposed to be designated as men's or women's, and each stall will have concrete masonry unit, CMU walls, and occupancy sensors with lights. Mr. Kenyon discussed the Omnitrax lease agreement. He shared that Omnitrax has agreed to the terms and concept that it will be a 10-year lease and that it will be on a month-to-month basis until the new lease is executed. Additional details regarding the committee meeting are included in the minutes provided to board members. Do board members have any questions about what was covered at the Building and Grounds Committee meeting held on January 18th, 2024? All right. Well, we have two action items coming out of this meeting. The first action item is recommend the full board approve Shenandoah Valley Electric easement on the FCMS property, Frederick County Middle School property.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Second action item is recommend to the full board approve the Omnitrax lease renewal agreement.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Any other new business?
Yes, sir. The next item on the list is the Varsity Tutors Contract Award. I'm going to share a little bit of information about this and then hand it over to my esteemed colleague, Mrs. Camry. This is associated with the all-in funding that we received from VDOE. So this is what we want to make sure we are able to get tutoring in front of our students. So we typically would bring this through the Finance Committee, but due to the short notice, this needs to be approved right away so we can start working through this. So we wanted to bring it to the full board for approval. It is over the $200,000 allowance that I can spend. So Ms. Camry, if you can share a little bit more about that. I think I might have hit it all, but
You hit a good deal of it, so thank you for that. So you make it easy for me. So yes, this is a contract award. We're seeking your approval. We have used Varsity Tutors since 2020, at which time it was less than the threshold to bring forward, but we used ESSER funds for that. Now we're bringing it forward because it's $373,798.20 for the first year and is over the threshold for Dr. Hummer to sign. And it is federal dollars of all-in Virginia funds that are paying for this. Last week, we talked about the 13 different funds that we oversee. This is in the Special Grants Fund. So with that, we're just looking for you to approve us to move forward with this.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the contract for Varsity Tutors.
Second.
Any discussion? All those opposed signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Did I say opposed?
You did.
I'm sorry. All those approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've got two other items. Two of them are, these last two are policy adjustments. The first is a bylaw, and by our policy, we have to read through this twice. So this is the first reading, and then the next meeting will be the second reading for approval. If you haven't taken a look at this, there is two major adjustments with this bylaw. The first is the order of our meetings. We wanted to make sure we got the right order, and we also wanted to add something called announcements at the end of the meeting. I think it's good for us to add in when our next meeting is. That hasn't been in our meetings before, but I think it's really good for us to do that, to say, hey, our next meeting is on such and such date, our committee meeting's on such and such date. I think it's good, again, to get the message out there so that we can continue to engage with our community. The other piece, if you saw at the bottom of this, and there were some requests from you all about this, but just to provide an overview of Robert's Rule of Order. Now, this particular policy doesn't have to cover every single aspect of Robert's Rule of Order, which is what we utilize to conduct our meetings. So if there is something that is not located there, it's not that we have to add it, it's just if it's not there, we refer to Robert's Rule of Order. So Mrs. Jordan and myself will help guide the board through any sort of complicated matters that might come up. But I think this is good for you all to reference. It's not something that we've had in the past, so this is something new. So please make sure you take time to read through it, bring any questions that you have forward, let me know, and then it will come to a second meeting for next meeting. So no action, Mr. Chair, for this one, but if there's any questions, we're more than happy to answer them.
Questions from the board?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Moving forward to the next one, this one is not a bylaw, so we will need a motion and an action on this one. This is to adjust the Public Records 603P to address FOIA. And in this particular policy, it was interesting because it actually listed specific people's names, and these specific people no longer work for Frederick County. So we want to make sure that we adjust that. It is a policy, so you have to approve that. So what adjustment we made that's the significant one is we just removed the name and we put the title of the person. So I know my staff told me they're going to give me 25 years, so we don't have to worry about them leaving anytime soon. But after the 25-year mark, hopefully that when they move, we'll be able to not have another policy change for us. And then there was just some aesthetics that we changed in spelling out FCPS and such. So we need a motion for this one, and I'm up for answer any questions you might have.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Miles?
I'd like to make a motion to approve policy 603P as presented.
Second?
Okay, motion has been properly seconded. Any discussion? All those approving signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Any further new business?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay, at this time, we have board member comments. Are there any comments from the board?
Mr. Chair. So I want to go ahead and say thank you publicly to Bright Futures for all that they do, serving the community, our school community, feeding those kids, making sure that they have a great Christmas, a great holiday. Also, our principals, counselors, past board members who received awards tonight. All those people put in a lot of work from different aspects. We talked about Mr. Thompson back there and some of the other principals that are out here, but the principals at all of our schools. I'm sure a lot of them can't be here tonight because they're pulling extra duty. Then you've got our counselors who are dealing with everything all day. It's getting thrown at them left and right. They don't get it like the teachers do to plan out their day as well. They're dealing with the chaos 24/7. I also want to say thank you to our transportation department. They're doing what they can to go out on these county back roads to ensure the safety of our kids coming in and out of the schools. I know over in my community, over in the Shawnee District, we were pretty plowed, we're pretty populated, but some of these back roads out there is pretty dangerous. So thank you to Dr. Hummer and his staff for going ahead and making those tough decisions. And I know Mr. Goodwin has a YouTube video out there talking about how we close the schools. So if you guys can go check that out, that would be great. I'm always promoting the YouTube channel. Like, share, and subscribe. And I want to say thank you to Dr. Hummer. It's been a year, like he said, and we've seen a lot of change. And it's everything I've seen has been for the positive. Look at how the boards come together. Look at the community relations that you've put forward. I really appreciate all you've done. I've gotten a lot of great feedback from my time on the previous board and my time here on this board. It's been a breath of fresh air, and I think the community really respects and appreciates all the transparency that you've given. Other than that, I think I'm good on comments.
Anyone else have any comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to obviously congratulate everyone that won an award this evening. I'm sure it's very well deserved. But there are two folks that I especially want to say congratulations to publicly. One is Jennifer Sheets. I had the pleasure of working with her last year at Ayler Middle School, and I have seldom met anyone more dedicated than Jennifer Sheets is to her students and to the school. The other teacher, and this is all personal, sorry, I'm airing my personal grievance, or personal happiness. The other teacher is Heather Walther. Both of my children had the pleasure of having her as their first grade teacher in Middletown Elementary, and honestly, probably the best person I have ever met in my life, and just well-deserved for both of them. I don't know the rest of you, but I'm sure it's also well-deserved for you too. So thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Any further comments? I don't normally, but I'm going to tonight. 2 years ago, this month, I stood there for the first time and decided to run for the school board. And to be quite honest, I had no idea what I was getting myself into, but I have been on a learning curve ever since December. And I'm going to say publicly, Dr. Hummer, I appreciate everything you have done. You have been outstanding in answering my questions, no matter how stupid I thought they were. You have done an awesome job in helping all of us to get on board, and I want to thank you personally for that. Ms. DeSantis, you're like the Energizer Bunny. For me, I have come in here with some of the dumbest things, getting the password wrong, forgetting to put a letter in there. She has been here every time I've called. She is on it. It's amazing to me. And the rest of the folks here, I have been amazed at all the training, all the time and effort they have put into it. And I have begun to appreciate just how much the people in this school system do. Someone nicknamed me the flamethrower when I was out there running my mouth as a candidate, and I thought, that's it, I'm gonna be the flamethrower. And I'm telling you, I have an appreciation for everybody that sits up here on this board. I was fortunate enough to meet with Ms. White before we came on, and several of the other members, and I have gotten such an education. So I personally want to thank everybody here tonight for helping us, and I'll stumble and fumble along the way, and that's just me, but I do appreciate everything that you've done. I thank the members of the community who showed up. I want to thank all of you and congratulate all of you, and I just am looking forward to a great 4 years, so thank you very much. Are there any further comments?
Mr. Chair?
Sir.
Before we move forward, I want to make sure we fix this. When we read the buildings and ground minutes, I don't think we approved those minutes. And it'd be nice if we can make a motion to approve those and be done. That'd be great.
Well, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the Building and Grounds Committee meeting held on January 18th, 2024.
All right. Motion being properly seconded, do we have any discussion? All those in favor of approving the minutes, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Hummer, for keeping me straight. And now, if there are no further comments, then I ask that we, sir.
Mr. Chair, can I make a motion to adjourn?
Why, you most certainly can, ma'am.
Second.
Any discussion on this? All right. All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all and good night.